Y'all, I unfortunately had to put Kaya away for this video because I've tried to record it multiple times and she keeps interrupting today. And this is one that I really want to focus for. I really want to focus for this one. All right, so y'all know how I have talked about in a couple of my past videos, I've talked about that one of my core wounds that I've really had to do a lot of work to work through. It still gets activated, but I've done a lot of work to get past this one. It's been one of my major pain points in life is traumatic invalidation. Essentially, growing up in an environment with caregivers that I often had to, and some of you might resonate with this as I say it and might find some familiarities in your experience, because I think a lot of the world goes through some version of this, but where I had to see things from their perspective, put myself in their shoes, prioritize their perspective, prioritize their truth, prioritize their worldview, prioritize their opinion, feel what they needed me to feel, think what was appropriate for me to think, and could only know what they felt comfortable with me knowing, in a way. That one's a little maybe harder to explain, but human beings, in order to develop into a complete mature adult, we have to move through stages of development. And the more successfully that we can move through each stage of development, maybe do it this way, the more successfully that we can complete each stage of development, the more prepared we are to go on to the next one, to face and to meet the challenges of that one. The need for validation of our perspective, of our perception of life, or of what our senses are telling us, what we're feeling and what we're thinking. The need for validation that our feelings are valid and that our thoughts are valid and that our perspective is valid is particularly sensitive between the age of 6 to 12. Okay, that's really when it starts. That's when we start developing our own, we start anchoring into like what we're capable of. And this is called industry versus inferiority. I forgot a why there, but industry versus inferiority, and one of the most well-known theories of psychosocial development, Erickson's stages. And this is when we start learning if we're capable, if the way that we perceive the world is accurate, and we're able to respond accordingly. In order to develop the self-esteem and the confidence to trust our perception, which then prepares us to be able to go out into the world with more confidence, to explore and to try things out and to engage with our peers, we need parents or caregivers that can validate us. That then, if we get a solid amount of this, that then prepares us to go into our teenage years, where we deepen further into our identity versus role confusion. So we really get to strengthen our sense of self in our teenage years. But before that, we need to be able to trust, first and foremost, that the things that we perceive carry some level of validity. Because like, if I can't trust what I think, if I can't think what I think, and I can't know what I know, and I can't feel what I feel, how can I even establish who I am? How can I feel safe to go out into the world and explore and to try out to try out different things and to test my limits and to have opinions and to have a position amongst my peers, to be able to engage from a solid sense of self? That can I stand and have my own worldview and engage with others? And the more that we're allowed that, the more flexible we become in later years in holding space for the worldview of others. Now, I don't think none of this is black and white, so I can't say, like, even though I experienced a lot of invalidation, it couldn't have been entirely, like, I didn't experience complete and utter validation. Like, there are levels to this. I've worked with some folks that experience this at levels that are just, you know, I mean, I've gone through it, but yeah, there's levels, you know. It's not all, I didn't experience it entirely, or else I wouldn't even have developed the confidence to probably even develop a career. But the wound was there. Oh my gosh, was it there? You know, as I talk about these wounds, it is really important for me to establish, and this is the child in me that is loyal to my caregivers, and like, we're all wired for that, you know. Like, this isn't about blaming any one person or saying that they were bad, because the truth is that this is a transgenerational thing. This is a systemic thing. Like, any parent that couldn't hold space for their child's perspective without feeling threatened by it, they had the same issue with their parents. Because again, in order to be able to comfortably hold space for other people's perspectives without fearing subconsciously, this usually, some people aren't usually conscious of this, without fearing that they're going to be obliterated by the other person's perspective, without perceiving it as a threat if it differs from them, that requires that somebody at some point in some critical stages of development held space for you to be you and for you to have your own perspective, and they modeled that you're allowed to have a self, that you're allowed to see things the way you see them, even if I see them differently, and that's okay. And that's what makes this world rich and gives us so much texture, that we're all standing in a different place. You know, the way that I've been thinking about the kind of uniqueness of each of our perspectives is that life is any situation of life, any aspect of life that we're all that we may have opinions on. It's like, it reminds me of being in an art class and having here, I'll put Kaya's toy here to show her chewed up toy, but like, let's say that I was in an art class and we were painting a still life. Still life is when you paint an object. And the teacher says, put this in the middle of the room, and said, okay, I want you all to paint this. Now all the art students create a circle around that object. And even though there's only one object, let's say there's 20 students, there's going to be 20 different paintings from a combination of things, okay? Skill level, the way that their hands move differently, but also where they're standing in the room. Like, each person has their own unique line that their body makes, that just like their natural voice that comes through. And even though we're all looking at the same thing, no matter what, we are all going to be looking at it from a slightly different angle. So just because I'm looking at it from this angle and painting this side of this little toy, in my painting shows, I guess, this little ear and just like red fur. Just because that's what my painting's gonna look like, when you're painting from this side that is showing the face, when your painting depicts the face, and we share paintings, does that mean that that person's painting was wrong or that my painting was wrong? No. There are different views of reality based on where we were standing. And each of us with our unique, we are all one of a kind. The creator, source, the great intelligence. I use the word God, but not God in the, to me, God is not the conservative Christian idea of a God. It's like the core universal intelligence, but we don't have to get into that unless you guys want to. But the creator, the intelligence of the universe made each of us unique. And so we're all going to offer a different perspective from where we're standing, because we're all going to see a different side of the world. That doesn't make any of us particularly wrong or particularly right. We just have a different view of the world. But we're here to share that view. Or else, why would we all be unique individuals? Then the way that the intelligence of nature would have just assigned one perspective, one individual, and there wouldn't even be a need for all of us. So like, we're here to express our individuality, and that's healthy. And being able to develop the capacity to do that and to be supported in that by other adults that ideally would have gone through these stages successfully, so that they could also have anchored into their authentic self and therefore wouldn't be threatened by you. I just lost my train of thought. This is where we're at. Again, hopefully you guys are getting something out of this, because it's interesting. Like, when I'm recording, I feel like I'm rambling, and then when I go back and watch it, like, I do perceive some logic and some value to it. You may feel different. Let me know. Anyways, if we jump ahead, like, when our parents or our caregivers could not hold that space for us to have our own perspective and view of the world without needing to supersede it by theirs, when they couldn't do that, we weren't able to develop the confidence to move authentically, and to see authentically, and to express authentically, and to feel safe, to have our perspective. Rather, we probably had to, before it was developmentally appropriate, we had to start trying to see things from other people's point of view. And we had to start considering that we were wrong, but to like an unhealthy level. Is we have to be able to trust to some extent in the rightness of our perspective. So if we jumped ahead to being way too psychologically flexible to all these other perspectives before we could have our own, that actually creates a really unstable sense of self. And that creates a validation wound that for many people ends up becoming manifesting as like they have to fight for their reality to be the ultimate one. That's why, have you ever been in a conversation with someone debating something, and then before you know it, or just like exploring an idea, and then before you know it, it feels like you're debating? You both probably, and I'm saying this because I've been there, you both probably have some level of a validation wound where it's like, I feel so unsafe and threatened when someone else has a different perspective, because like I wasn't even allowed to have mine to a healthy level when I was developing, that like I need to establish my point and my view in this conversation until you agree with me, until you see it exactly how I see it. Because since I didn't get to like fully move through this, I'm secretly afraid that maybe, and most people aren't conscious of this, but I'm secretly afraid that my perspective actually is not valid. So I need you to be wrong so I can be right. Because when I was growing up, I needed to be wrong so someone else could be right. So I was introduced to a very dualistic version of reality. That somebody needs to be wrong in order for somebody else to be right. And if you look at a lot of parenting, popular parenting for many generations, it has been that, like, the parent is the ultimate authority on reality. Like, kids don't get to, a lot of people in our world did not get to healthily move through these stages. I think this has a lot to do with what we're seeing in our world right now, where people will gaslight, manipulate, and use all kinds of like mental gymnastics with each other to be the one that's right. And wars break out. I mean, you don't need me to tell you, but like, if we could get back to people working to heal whatever they experience in their childhood in regards to this, and to be able to arrive at the point of like, that's your perspective and that's okay, you're allowed to have it, and this is my perspective and I'm allowed to have it, because we're all standing in a different spot of the room in this reality. We are, but we're all getting, like, all of them are valid, they're just all seeing it differently. Like, if we could heal our traumas, because not getting this is a form of trauma. So like, a part of you kind of gets frozen there. Whatever stage you didn't successfully move through, a part of your psychology gets stuck there until you resolve it. This is Erik Erikson's theory, but I can say from my life and from working with, I don't even know, countless people for all these years that I've been doing therapy, and say I would validate this. I would validate. I agree with this theory. I've seen it play out. So like, until we go back to that stage and like provide healing for like that part of us that's frozen in that point of time in time, and heal that, being able to have a self and not need other people to see things the way we see it is not likely to happen. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful. You know, if you feel like you've just spent your whole life kind of like diminishing yourself or making yourself small so other people could be comfortable, or making yourself wrong to not stir up any, to not cause a stir or upset anybody, and you experience anxiety or depression, this could very much be related. Because if you can't be yourself in this world, you're not going to feel safe. If you can't like have a right to your feelings and your perspective, you're not going to feel safe. That's anxiety. And also there's like a kind of learned helplessness about it. Like, just, okay, if there's no need for me and for my unique perspective, there's no room for me, then what's the point of me even being here? And people collapse from that. That's depression. So hopefully this is valuable to somebody out there. If you have any questions, any feedback, if this brought up anything for you that you'd like to share with me, or with this community that we're building, that I am naming right now that we're building, because I'm very early to this YouTube game, so I'm still not getting a lot of comments from you guys, but I'm looking every day. I'm looking forward to hearing from more and more of you. Yeah, if you have anything you want to share with me in respect to any of what I talked about today, please comment below, and I would love to begin developing more and more of a dialogue with you guys, because I can help inform what I show up to talk about in these videos. All right, I love you guys. Have a good night. Stay safe out there and be kind to yourselves. Bye.